Okay, Jesse, James Parker is again, mate. Thanks for sending me your next swing in. Right, so just got a text back from you. Wanting to know what your ball flight, what you're doing with this particular swing on the left, which is your latest one. What the ball flight's doing. You said it's going pretty straight. If anything, it's a push, or a push fade. So if we're gonna diagnose that, just going through this swing, what I would put the push down to, the ones which push a little bit, are just working on hand path. Right, we spoke about this before. How when we come down to P6 here, right? So if we circle where your hands are there, we'll do this in green. Right, we'll circle it there. Right, from here we want the hands moving. We want the handle then moving up. This is the pattern you see in good players. The handle then starts moving up, but also starts moving left. Right, so your handle might be moving up, but you can see how it's coming pretty straight through the shot there. Right, so we want it moving left more, and then we look post impact, and you can see how this right arm. Is pretty straight there. There's a big sort of gap in between your right arm and the side of your body, so you lost connection a little bit. And then we look at the exit point and see if it matches up, and the club's coming out through your left shoulder and the hands are coming out through the left shoulder, which is just a bit too high. Right, that's the sort of shot pattern you get from guys that push it, and also hook it. Right, also turn the ball over too much because the path is too much into out, just a little bit, and especially with the right arm disconnected from the body, you're gonna have that tendency to for the hook to come into play as well, right? So you compare that. We'll stop you there, maybe. We compare that to your swing a few weeks ago that you sent me in. Right, and we stop you there post impact. Right, and you can see how your hands, the handle, and your right arm are moving left more. Right, so look how sooner the hands and the handle, your right arm disappear behind your body. Right, so for me, your right arm's working inward more. Hands are working inward more, and then from that position we'd expect the club and your hands to come out a little bit lower, right? So you start to see the club come out underneath your left shoulder, kind of through the middle of your left bicep, and then the hands are kind of coming out through the middle of your left bicep, maybe upper bicep, right? But here through the shoulder, which is just too high, right? We want to get it coming out lower down here, right? So let's get rid of these lines. So we've worked hard on our turns, haven't we? Right. So I think compared to where we were before, just to bring it down to P6, I think we're better with our turns. We look to have turned our shoulders a bit more at P6. We've definitely moved our shoulders out the way a little bit more at P7, haven't we? So we're starting to see shoulders and hips start to get out the way a little bit more there, whereas before the shoulders maybe weren't quite as open as what we want, but you did a really good job on this particular one of keeping that right arm connected, right? So I think your new swing, the turns are better, but the hand path we've still got to work hard on, right? We've still got to get your hands working more left. What's going to contribute to that is the turns, and you look like you're turning much better by the time you get to impact. But we've got to keep, let me get rid of these lines, we've got to keep this right arm more connected to the side of our body here, right? So that's a drill with just a little glove or a T-peg underneath your armpit, hitting little shots, right? And the reason I pull this swing up on the right side is because there's a couple of things which I prefer on the right side than the left side, right? The first thing is your new swing on the left side, you just look too bent over, right? The spine angle looks too bent over. The shaft is just too low. If you look at the angle of the shaft's actually going up. You know, if we extend the line of the shaft, it's actually going below your belt line, below your belt buckle. This one, because you're standing a bit closer to it, right, you're a bit more upright here, right? The shaft is going just slightly above your belt buckle, right? But there's also, you know, considering we're working on arm connection and hand path, you know, this one on the right side, it's going to be easy for your arms to connect to the side of your body at the start, isn't it? If you're bending over too much and your arms are down here, you've got all this area in here where you're just going to struggle with your connection. So we want to establish a good connection under our armpits before we even get going. All right, so that's the first thing I'd change. I would change your setup a little bit to how we had it a few weeks ago. Right, stand a bit closer to it. I want the shaft a little bit more upright. Right, and then you can get your hands a bit close to your body. You can establish some connection with your arms pinched against the side of your body. All right, so that's what I would change in your setup. Now, the other thing I want you to pay attention to is, okay, so the turns aren't quite as good, but the hand path was better on this one. Shaft's exiting a bit lower, but look at your finish position. Look how well you finish there, kind of just planted on your left foot, right? Nice sort of L shape with your left arm, or, you know, weight, pressure on the left foot. You know, you could just balance on that right foot. With this one, and I think your setup's to do with it, right? If you're bending over too much, you can have too much sort of weight leaning towards your toes, right? The bias is going to be too much towards your toes, and then what we're seeing when you're finishing is you're struggling to keep your balance, right? So you come through struggling to keep our balance there. So unlike the one on the right side, where, you know, you look like you just hang out there for the next 10 seconds, you hit it and then you've got to readjust your footwork to keep your balance. Right? We want to build a motion where we're hitting a shot and we can keep our balance on our left foot. Right? So I want to work on footwork a little bit. So if we pull your swing in from this side, right, there's a few things I want to talk about with regards to footwork. Right, so put a few lines there, one next to your head, one outside your hips. So a little bit of a movement off the ball, isn't there still? Right, you can see your head's moving to the right, hips are moving to the right, and we know this because we're not keeping our hips and our left ear next to those red lines. Let me pull up a model. Grant Way is a good one. Right, so our toes are turned out, definitely. We could maybe get our knees out a little bit more, almost like we're sitting on a horse, right? But what I want you to make those lines better, so they're more accurate. So what I want you to think about is, you can see at the top of his swing here, right, how his left ear is on the red line and his left hip is still on the red line. You get to the top and you've moved it very much off the ball. So you then need a very aggressive move to start your downswing to get back over to the left. Right? So we want to try and make that a little bit more patient. Okay? You can see how your hips have moved off that line, your head's moved off that line. So now we need to get back over there. Right? and it's very aggressive. And you can see how already down to maybe P5, that right heel starting to come off the ground, right? So you look at Grant Way as he comes down to P5, his right heel still on the ground, right? His right heel still on the ground. And you can see there at P5 how much he's got past that red line. You're only just a little bit past it, right? And also already your heel's starting to come off the ground. So what I'm saying is I want to build you a swing, and we'll work a lot on this when you come and see me in the next in a couple of weeks when we've got you booked in. But a lot of the stuff I think we're going to work on, mate, is working on your transition and also the pressure underneath your feet. Now, I would argue, if you go and do some research at Body Track, they're going to tell you, well, halfway back there, he's got 80% of the pressure underneath his trail foot, right? And then by the time his left arm's parallel with the ground on the way down, he's got 80% of the pressure underneath his lead foot. So really the pressure transfer happens from there, from left arm parallel with the ground on the way back to left arm parallel with the ground on the way down. You can really see that in what's happening with his hips sliding, and also, really pushing down into that lead foot there, right? So because in your takeaway and halfway into your backswing, we're too right-sided, right? I want you to focus on your left side, on your left foot, sooner, right? A lot sooner. So a good way of thinking about it would be, if we use Grant Way as a model. So let's say the club head is there, right? So let's say it's P2, P2.5. After P2.5, now the club head's starting to move towards the target, right? Club head's starting to move towards the target. Right? I would argue from that position, we need to start to re-establish pressure into our left foot. So really what I want you to do is I want you to, yes, transfer pressure into your trail foot, into your right foot, into this foot, right? From setup to maybe P2, maybe just past P2. But from this position, now I want you to start pushing down under this lead foot, right? And that will stop, if we put a little circle where your knee is, put a little circle where his knee is, and you can see his knee comes down and inward, right? But only a little bit. And he comes down and inward a little bit. Now the thing is, if you're starting to push down in your left foot earlier, right? So the point is the club head's still going back, but we're pushing down under this foot, under the front foot. We're re-establishing pressure back under the lead foot a lot earlier, right? And then if you do that, you can see what happens to the left knee. The left knee just moves down and inward just a little bit, right? Whereas because you're a little bit too right-sided, watch what happens to your left knee, right? So it's come kind of fully out that circle, whereas his left knee doesn't really get out the circle. Comes out the circle a little bit, but yours is fully out the circle, right? Which just tells me this left knee's kind of banked in a little bit too much, right? His is just there, right? So then from that position, he's got a good he's in a position to then really sit down, push down into his left foot and squat, right? So then you start to see that position with the left leg at P5. You're at P5 and you're there, right? So that's really what I want you to work on from now, for the next week or so, mate, is re-establish the pressure into your lead foot earlier, right? So maybe make your backswing, pressure transfer is right foot, push down under the right foot to about there, and then from there push down under the lead foot. You can see you're still pushing down the right foot, then you push down under the left foot. I want you pushing down into under the left foot, the green circle, about now. So the club's still going back, but you're now pushing down under the lead foot, right? And I think that will help your footwork. That will help you stay more left-sided, and that will change numerous other things with regards to the dynamics on the way down as well. Okay, mate? So a few little things at the start with regard to hand path, and your turns are better, not so bent over, kind of where you were before, but then really work on this footwork, mate. I want you to re-establish pressure into the lead foot a lot earlier in your backswing. All right, mate. Any questions or you have any comments or anything? Just shoot me an email. Cheers.